Welcome to Tzu Chi This Week. I'm Anita Lee. It's good to have you with us. In this week's top stories, Tzu Chi volunteers in Taipei, Taiwan set up service stations at the crash site of TransAsia Airways GE235 to support rescue operations. Tzu Chi volunteers from both Taiwan and China extend their assistance to stricken family members of victims of flight GE235. Lastly, care recipients in Guangdong, China received Tzu Chi's rice and necessities ahead of Chinese New Year. Emergency workers continue to scour the Keelung River for victims of TransAsia Airways flight GE235, which crashed on Wednesday shortly after takeoff from Taipei with 58 people aboard. With rescue operations in progress, Tzu Chi volunteers set up service points near the crash site to provide ginger tea and hot meals for emergency workers. Volunteers in Sanchong also delivered vegetarian lunchboxes and hot beverages to the mortuary for families of the crash victims. Offering hot tea and hot meals to emergency workers at the site of the plane crash, Tzu Chi volunteers continue to stand by the heroes working on the front lines.
We have prepared 4 barrels of ginger tea, 3 barrels of coffee, and the 500 rice bowls will be sent here shortly.
With the arrival of a cold front in Taipei, volunteers distributed blankets and heat packs to rescue personnel on site. In addition, Tzu Chi service station continues to put out hot food and aid to support the entire rescue operation.
We hope that the missing can be found as soon as possible, so the rescue workers can also take a break.
Some volunteers arrived at the service station long before sunrise, while others camped out here overnight. Working tirelessly without complaint, all volunteers hope for is to give these frontline heroes the strength to strive on. No matter how chilly it is outside or how icy cold the water is, it is nothing compared to the elements emergency workers have to brave. Hence, without any hesitation, volunteers rinse the rice under running cold water.
When we heard the news at home, I told my husband to hurry up and get dressed. We came straight here to see if we can help out.
After rinsing the rice thoroughly, volunteers ready the ingredients to make rice balls.
We're sending this to the service station. Many of the soldiers haven't had anything to eat yet. They say they prefer rice rolls because it is easier and more convenient for them to eat.
The same care and attentiveness can be found here in Sanchong.
It's really cold today, and since it's inconvenient for us to prepare soup at the morgue, we prepare simple ginger tea and burdock tea instead.
Providing hot beverages and healthy lunchboxes, volunteers hope to help family members gain the strength and courage to face the trials ahead.
We're preparing these lunchboxes for the family members. We want to offer our help.
The ingredients have all been donated by market vendors out of love and concern for the victims and their family members. At the forefront of the rescue efforts around the Keelung River has been a team of divers. In today's report, we take a closer look at the problems these divers have to overcome as rescue operations continue. With most of rescue efforts happening underwater, it is these divers that carry the burden. To stay warm, the divers wrap themselves up in layer after layer of saran wrap.
That is plastic wrap. Yes, that is to stay warm. It reduces the contact of the water with the skin. With this weather, staying underwater even 30 minutes is a challenge.
As a massive cold front envelops Taipei, no one feels it more than these divers. The water they dive in are usually 4 to 5 degrees colder than the air outside. That means with temperatures hovering around 10 degrees, the water temperatures are as low as 5 degrees. Basic diving equipment includes an oxygen tank, diving suit, goggles, flippers, a regulator and a diving watch. In total, each diver's equipment weighs at least 30 kilograms. Another limiting factor is the low visibility.
The currents are really strong as the tide is moving out, so it is impossible to stay in one place while underwater. Also, the depth of the river is only 1.5 meters, which means we can only see about 30 to 40 centimeters ahead of us. We have to rely on touch to get around.
Most of these divers belong to civil rescue units, which means they are not getting paid a cent for their valiant efforts. However, needing a place to rest, change and warm up, they turn to Tzu Chi.
他们要求说要我们两个帐篷啊。
Tzu Chi brought not only tents but warm blankets. Here on the banks of Keelung River, in the face of harsh conditions, divers give it their all. While a truck from the fire department continues to fill up the divers' oxygen tanks so that their mission to find the remaining missing people can continue unabated. 31 of the 58 people aboard TransAsia Airways flight GE235 were tourists from China, while 10 were residents of Jinmen County. Since the tragedy, Tzu Chi volunteers in both Taiwan and China have mobilized to help support bereaved family members of those aboard. Bereaved family members of those aboard TransAsia Airways flight GE235 have begun to arrive at both the Taoyuan and Taipei airports. At the Taipei airport, they were greeted by waiting Tzu Chi volunteers ready to assist.
Tzu Chi volunteers have a calming effect which help put them at ease. Most of the family members are still holding up pretty well. For those who have broken down, we offer them a shoulder to lean on. Of those on the plane, 31 were tourists from China, while 10 were residents of Jinmen. Thus, officials from the county have also arrived to help.
Along with our council members, we are here to hand out consolation cash. We have also established a service station at both the Jinmen and Taipei airports.
Meanwhile, the Tourism Bureau of Xiamen City has dispatched its Deputy Director Chen Guiling and 5 other representatives from the local Taiwan Affairs Office and Xiamen Tourism Group to Taiwan to help handle the affairs of the deceased Chinese tourists. Over in Xiamen, China, 9 family members of the deceased arrived at the airport Thursday morning to catch a direct flight to Taiwan. After a night of grieving, the family members remained emotional. Waiting for them at the airport, Tzu Chi volunteers helped them check in and kept them company until they boarded. Volunteers even prepared hot ginger tea, scarves and handkerchiefs to help convey their love. At 5 in the morning, another group of family members arrives ready to head to Taiwan. The volunteers showed them the same affection and even agreed to accompany them to Taiwan. Immediately after hearing news of the tragedy, Xiamen volunteers initiated an emergency response protocol and went to support the families of those on board. On Thursday, they also established service stations at both the airport and the hotel where the families are staying. The volunteers hope that they can help make the trip to Taipei as comfortable and stress-free as possible, so families will be ready to cope with the hardships ahead. On the second day following the plane crash, volunteers gathered at Taipei City's second funeral parlor to participate in a Dharma service for the deceased. From morning to evening, over 1,000 volunteers worked in shifts, chanting on behalf of those who tragically lost their lives.
On the second day since the TransAsia Airways crash, altogether 1,000 Tzu Chi volunteers from all over Taipei and New Taipei City have gathered at the funeral home, where victims of the crash are being remembered.
We will be here from 6 in the morning till 8 at night. Altogether, we have 8 districts participating. Each district is a 2-hour shift. In this way, everyone can have a chance to offer help to those in need.
Despite the cold, rainy day, volunteers chant ceaselessly to bring peace to those who passed away in the crash. Also on hand to accompany family members was volunteer Zhang Baoxiu, who herself lost a son in a TransAsia Airways crash in Penghu.
It was like history is repeating itself. It was like I had returned to those days following the crash in Penghu. I had to immediately stop thinking about that and instead help the family members to calm down. If we living can be calm, then those who passed away will be able to find peace.
The volunteers chanting sutras change teams every 2 hours, while other volunteers accompany the family members, giving them strength to face the challenges ahead.
We work like this. If, for example, a family has 7 family members, we will then have 7 volunteers on hand to accompany them, sometimes even 8. This sort of one-on-one has really been appreciated by the family members, and they hope we can continue to accompany them in the days to come.
更要展现热忱。
Following this crash, we have to be even more devout and proactive in our care. We need to give all we can to be by the family member's side. This is important.
觉得这也是一个方式。
In addition to looking after family members, volunteers also bring hot ginger tea for the media covering the event. Volunteers say they will be at the funeral parlor until the Dharma service finishes at 8 p.m. And in the days following, they will try to be by the family member's side whenever possible.
Pilot of flight GE235, Liao Jianzong, is being held as a hero, for he reportedly helped steer the plane away from the city center and crash into a river instead, an act that minimized death toll and actually gave a few passengers a chance to survive the crash.
Liao Jianzong, who piloted the TransAsia Airways airplane that crashed into the Jilong River in Taipei, worked hard to get to where he was.
I've heard his father say that he was worried about his safety because they are at risk of being a pilot. Of course, parents are always worried about their kids.
Liao grew up in Nantou City. His family didn't have much money, but always made sure he and his brother had food to eat.
When they were younger, the parents sold clothes at the farmer's market. They have a booth at the night market, and one in the morning too.
Once Liao became a pilot, he didn't forget to reciprocate his parents' love and efforts. In the eyes of his old neighbors, he was a good son.
Just recently, he sent his parents on a vacation. He often comes back to visit the family when he's off from work. He's very good to his parents.
Upon hearing news of the plane crash on the 4th, Liao's family immediately headed to Taipei to be with their son.
With Chinese New Year just around the corner, Tzu Chi volunteers in Guangdong, China brought rice and daily necessities to care recipients and also helped one care recipient clean up his home.
A home filled with garbage and a broken bed is where Mr. Wang calls home. Due to mental illness, Wang has been unable to clean up his home. Thankfully, volunteers are here to give his house a makeover.
Please remember to keep your house clean and tidy after we finish cleaning it. It's better for your health, okay?
After seeing Wang's living environment, volunteers young and old rolled up their sleeves to give the house a much-needed cleaning. Due to the amount of waste and dirt inside the house, volunteers decided to use shovels instead of brooms.
This is a penny. I don't think he knows this is money.
In just 3 hours, Wang's home is finally clean and tidy once again. The volunteers even purchased new pieces of furniture to add a touch of warmth to Wang's home. Next, the volunteers visit Grandpa Yuan, who happily receives a gift of daily necessities from the blue and white clad angels. Tzu Chi volunteers also travel to Shilong town to visit solitary seniors, including octogenarian Zhong Liru, who still has to look after her eldest daughter.
We bought you a warm jacket. Your jacket is too old and not warm enough.
witnessing suffering firsthand, Tzu Chi volunteers have realized it is truly a blessing to be able to give.
Taipei's Xinyi district is home of Taipei 101 and the city's financial center. But even in such an area of prime real estate live people in need of assistance. In an abandoned underground market, Tzu Chi volunteers have been watching over a woman from China who married a veteran 17 years ago. Now that her husband has passed away, the volunteers have become her only family here.
Section 4 of Taipei's Xinyi Road is among the city's prime district, as it neighbors 101 and the city's financial center. But even here live people in need.
All these items are salvaged. I go scavenging for items that people discard as I don't have money to buy them. I'm poor, a low-income earner. I need to pay for rent and utility. I don't have the money to buy food.
17 years ago, Ms. Gao, originally from China's Shandong, married a Taiwanese and has since lived in this room less than 7 square meters. After her husband passed away 5 months ago, she has been living alone.
Her husband lay in the ER for 4 to 5 days and couldn't get hospitalized, so we had to pull some favors for him, otherwise no doctor was going to treat him.
I'm really tired of living. When my husband was still alive, at least there was still someone to keep me company. Now I'm completely alone. I feel so lonely and empty. Yes, this is my porridge. I keep it warm in the rice cooker, just like this, so I can eat it anytime.
Stale porridge in the rice cooker and cold hot buns inside a wok are what sustain the old lady. The kitchen is also where she showers.
I just stand here and rinse myself at night right over here. I don't have a water heater. I have to heat the water first on the stove.
This underground market has been abandoned for some 30 years. It is dark, filthy, and full of electrical wires. In fact, Ms. Gao isn't the only one taking shelter here.
It is all thanks to your help. You're just like my family. You're all my family. All of you have been so wonderful in looking after me. I will never forget you.
For more than a decade, Tzu Chi volunteers have been watching over this family and have also helped Ms. Gao apply for public housing. But just how many other cases like this are hidden throughout the city?
In New Taipei City, Taiwan, the Overseas Volunteer Training Seminar kicked off on February 2nd at the Tzu Chi Central Grounds. This year, the seminar welcomed 429 trainees from Malaysia, Singapore, Sri Lanka, Vietnam, the United States, and Canada. Prior to their arrival, local Tzu Chi volunteers gave the grounds a thorough cleaning.
Prior to the arrival of their counterparts from across the globe, Tzu Chi volunteers in Taiwan were to give the Tzu Chi Central Grounds in New Taipei City a thorough cleaning. A total of 60 volunteers from 3 different districts gathered together to prepare 600 sets of bedding.
The bed sheets represent the past life and the next life. The pillowcases represent this life. When we fold the bed sheets together, it means that we are doing good deeds for both our past and future lives.
Inside the kitchen, 80-year-old Tzu Chi volunteer Gao A-Ye carefully counts the numbers of utensils at hand. Gao says it is a blessing and a rare opportunity to be able to give at such an old age.
I always say yes when people ask me for help. I often tell people that being able to finish a task quickly is not good enough. The most important thing is to finish the task carefully.
In charge of the response team for the very first time is Tzu Chi volunteer Ye Guozhong, who says the Buddhist NGO's philosophy has inspired him to become a more well-rounded person.
You have to humble yourself and make sure not to expect others to follow your every command. We need to work well with others to make sure the event can run smoothly.
By shouldering the responsibility as a team leader, former Tzu Chi Miami Liaison Office head Lai Zhongxi hopes his efforts can leave his counterparts from abroad feeling right at home.
在担任负责人的时候
Before, when I was still the person in charge of a Tzu Chi office, I focused on shouldering responsibilities. Now my job is to listen and cooperate with others.
重要的就是要乐于配合。
经过这一次，我想。
By attending the seminar, I believe many people will go home with a better understanding of the Tzu Chi Foundation and the Jingsi Dharma lineage. I hope they can bring the Buddhist NGO's philosophy back home and spread it across their communities.
Although the seminar will only last for 3 days, Tzu Chi volunteers in Taiwan are giving in their all as they hope the 421 trainees from across the globe can go home full of wisdom and Dharma joy.
On completion of their training seminar in Sanchong, overseas volunteers traveled to the Jingsi abode in Hualien on February 4th, where they received their Tzu Chi volunteer certification.
我在2年前就发
2 years ago, I made a vow to come to Hualien to meet the master, but I was afraid of flying. Today, I have finally conquered my fear of heights.
Having to overcome her fear of heights to receive her Tzu Chi commissioner name tag from Master Zheng Yan is Chen Shouxiang. Chen had a difficult childhood, being born without a tongue. However, life's challenges didn't stop there. After giving birth, Chen discovered that she had colorectal and breast cancer. It has been more than a decade since the South Asian tsunami. Today, the first group of local volunteers from Sri Lanka is becoming certified Tzu Chi volunteers.
At the moment, we have only a few number of volunteers and members, around 260. You may think, why 10 years? So this year, in 2015, after we have become commissioners, I make a vow, we make 1,000 volunteers and 1,000 members at the end of this 2015.
Tzu Chi volunteers in Malaysia also share how the Buddhist NGO's efforts in assisting victims of the recent flooding has united all citizens in donating their love.
感恩上人
I want to thank Master Zheng Yan for her compassion. The Master helped us launch Cash for Work programs in Malaysia for the very first time.
宗教老师也
A religious teacher told us that the same blood runs in everyone and that we are all brothers and sisters. The teacher asked me what he can do to help. So I told him he can start by practicing recycling. He promised to do so in his school.
Staff members of Tzu Chi's Four Missions put on a stage adaptation of the Great White Ox Cart to encourage newly certified volunteers to boldly shoulder the NGO's missions.
期盼的每一位呢，就如我一颗很饱满的种子啊，那深深的要注入了你们的心田里，期待大家要记得此刻师父对大家的期待，也希望人人不要忘掉呢这个时候的这一份发大心、立大愿，要成为人间菩萨。
By lighting the lamp which represents wisdom and hope, newly certified Tzu Chi volunteers also vowed to recruit more like-minded people to join them on the Bodhisattva path.
Nantou, Taiwan is the hometown of the late pilot Liao Jianzong. Yesterday, local volunteers visited the family, bringing with them Master Zheng Yan's condolences and blessings. During his lifetime, Liao often encouraged his parents to take part in Tzu Chi activities and recycling efforts. Both parents said they are proud to have a son like Liao. We leave you with these images at the end of our show. Have a pleasant weekend.